The Marlins are keeping it in the division in the early part of this week, heading into Philadelphia. The road trip continues, having seen the back of the Mets. And thank God we've seen the back of the Mets, but heading into Philadelphia, carrying this road trip on. And it's going to be a fun series. Sandy Alcantara getting it rolling here. I'm joined by Connor Thomas from Locked On Phillies. So we have a crossover extravaganza going on here. Connor, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Pete, man. Thank you for having me. It's good to jump into an NL East series. I know you've seen two of them already, but same opponent. It's crazy. We play you guys, and then we don't see another NL East opponent until we play Atlanta much later on. So you guys have already gotten two out of the way. So I want to hear about the Mets and your start to the season. But it's good to finally see the division and get a good look at the two teams hanging right there in the middle right now in the standings.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So there's tons to get into here. This is going to be an action-packed show. It feels like the games, there's just been action, activity. There's been news stories popping up all over the show, both for the Marlins and the Phillies, actually. It's been action-packed in the first 9-10 games of both teams, both clubs. A lot of fun on this one. So let's start with the Phils, and let's kind of dig into early impressions. It's fair to say it's been an up and down start, but I'm interested to hear your take on it and sharing your view on what's been happening so far.
Yeah, it's been a really weird start to the year for the Phillies, and last year was too. And everything with the Philadelphia Phillies is always interesting. There's never simple like, oh, they win a game 5-2 and just move on, and everyone played well, and it was just a comfortable. Everything's got to be weird with them. Tough start to the year in Texas, getting swept in the first series of the year, and then a really tall task going to New York against the Yankees for the second series. That team's pretty darn good up there and playing well in the Bronx. So those two series had a lot of people nervous about the Philadelphia Phillies only winning one game out of those first six, but then they handled the Reds pretty well. And you get into a part of the schedule where it seems to be a little bit more regular level of competition. When you look at the Marlins are a competitive team. They're not the Washington Nationals. They're not the Oakland Athletics. So this isn't going to be a walkthrough series, but you get to see the Colorado Rockies. You get to see the Reds again. So teams that should be a little bit easier to handle for the Phillies. The biggest thing for the Phils right now is injuries. You lose Rhys Hoskins right before the season to the ACL tear. You lose Derek Hall with a tear in his thumb, a ligament gone, so he'll be gone for over a month in that Yankee series where he was injured. Ranger Suarez hasn't pitched yet, so the Phillies are kind of trying to piecemeal together a lineup every day, day in and day out, and that's just something they're going to have to overcome. So with that, all those things considered, where they're standing right now at 3-6 isn't the worst spot to be. And this is a big series to see who takes that first. Not that you can take a jump in early April in the division, but Marlins sitting at 4-6, the Phillies sitting at 3-6, looking at a situation where this series will give a good look at the early division hierarchy. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the thing, right? Both teams, I think, have been a little bit up and down to get the season rolling. The Marlins, though, they hadn't been so affected injury-wise, but more recently we started to see a couple of Joey Wendell heading to the IL recently, Johnny Cueto heading to the IL. Avisel Garcia exits the game yesterday as well with a hamstring. He was on the IL last year with hamstring issues, so the injuries start to bite. We're only 10 games in, and the injuries and the depth is already being tested. I think one of the key big things as well for the Phils, more generally as the year progresses, is the progress of Bryce Harper as well. It feels like, and I'm not overly close to it, nowhere near as close to it as you are, but it feels like he's a little bit ahead of schedule. I saw some BP recently. He's hitting bombs in BP, so good news there. What's the kind of latest update on Bryce?
Yeah, he's very ahead of schedule. The initial talks when we knew it was a tear in his UCL and he would need Tommy John surgery was people were talking about all-star break. And they didn't put him on the 60-day injured list to start the year, which means there's a chance that before May 29th, we see him play a Major League Baseball game. So that would be way ahead of schedule, and I think that's wishful thinking. But the fact that the timeline's accelerated that much is huge. Yeah, he's taking on-field BP now. The next step would be to be able to go through actual workouts and start rehabbing the elbow a little bit more strenuously. And then he'll have to do a full rehab stint in the minors and everything like that. So I'd say we're still well over a month away from seeing him play a Major League Baseball game. But he's going well, and that'll be something that the Phillies will get as a boost probably about a month and a half, 2 months from now. So all good things on the Bryce Harper front. And the sooner he gets back with the other injuries, the better. You know how, from watching him in division for his entire career, how important he can be to a team. So that's good news.
No doubt. And the assumption is he's going to be DHing when he returns, right?
Yes.
It's unlikely to play the outfield.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. The main reason that I've heard talking to some people around the team recently is that he can't play right now is because he hasn't been cleared to like slide or do like impact things with his elbow. Hitting is okay, but
Huh?
there's ways that you could like affect the elbow sliding. Apparently, that could hurt it. So he's hitting home runs already, which is a good sign. The issue is all the wear and tear of the other things that come with playing the game. So I'd be surprised if he plays anything but DH when he comes back.
Yeah, no doubt. What about first base? Because clearly it seems like they've had a run of bad luck there. Obviously, the Reese Hoskins injury looked bad and is bad. Then obviously, yeah, as you mentioned, Derek Hall then I guess was due to pick up the slack. He then tears a ligament. So what's happening in first base? Are the Phillies kind of being able to piece it together?
Yeah, they're trying to. So Alec Boehm is probably their best option at first base right now, who was your starting third baseman to start the year. So you're looking at a situation where manager Rob Thompson did not want to move Alec Boehm to first base. Said initially they may do it just when there is a lefty on the mound. So you can go ahead and have the right-handed bat at Boehm. And then they went ahead and started Boehm a couple times at first in the series with the Reds. And Edmundo Sosa played really well at third base. And Thompson came out and said, okay, going forward, we're going to try and do Alec Boehm at first as much as possible. So they're still trying to figure it out internally. But that seems to be the likely setup is going to be Edmundo Sosa steps in at third base and Alec Boehm shifts across the diamond to first, which isn't ideal, but it's the best the Philadelphia Phillies have right now to try and mitigate two first basemen needing surgery in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Crazy. I was
Yeah.
wondering if the Phils might look to try and dip into the trade market, actually, was one of the thoughts I had, where, the first base, it feels like there's a few opportunities maybe out there. You can go and acquire a guy to kind of, plug in there for a month, 2 months, whatever it might be, and fill that void. I'd be interested to see, because one of the other interesting moves the Phils made was at center field. Well, I guess maybe
Mhm.
backup center field, but with the Christian Pache move,
Yes.
which it sounded like he wasn't making the A's roster and was available. He's got a dreamy defensive profile that we've all heard about, and has had some problems hitting. So it's fair to say I'd seen a little bit of some negative reaction to his early starts. I would say with the Phillies, right?
I'm going to try and say this respectfully.
Please
Christian
do.
Pache probably should not be on a major league roster right now. I think we saw proof of that when the Oakland Athletics decided not to carry him this year on their roster.
Yeah,
And that's normally a pretty good indicator, knowing what that organization
yeah,
is of a guy's ability. Okay, I'm not going to be as nice right here. He flat out has stunk so far for the Philadelphia Phillies. And he's playing because of a necessity. You moved Matt Vierling and Nick Maton, who are two depth pieces. Matt Vierling playing center field a lot for the Phillies last year in a trade for Gregory Soto with Detroit. So you lost outfield depth, and the Phillies kind of had to scramble to go ahead and find someone else who could spend time out there. And Pache was just the guy they decided was the option. So, no, he has not been good, and the
Hmm.
Phillies' depth pieces have not been great in general. And those are guys that are going to have to step up if this team's going to continue to stay afloat until you get Bryce Harper back and you get Ranger Suarez back and Derek Hall and all these other guys you're missing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it'd be wrong of me not to ask about one of the Marlins ex studs in JT
Mhm.
Realmuto. It looks like Realmuto is just still Realmuto and just doing Realmuto things. How's he started the year?
Yeah, he's been as advertised as he has been since becoming a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, he'll go through a month where he doesn't play his best baseball or swing his best bat at the plate, but year in and year out, he's going to be basically the best catcher in baseball, if not one of the top two or three. And he's off to another good start. Again, this year hit his first home run of the year, 446 feet, I think it was, in cold weather with the wind blowing in from left. Like it was an absolute bomb. So he's been really, really good to start. And that top of the lineup, right? The Schwarber, Realmuto, Turner, Castellanos, Bohm. Those are the guys that have to make up for the Christian Paches that are being forced to start. And JT's been doing a good job of that early on in the season.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it's fair to say, I mean, I keep asking it anytime I speak to any Phillies fans on this pod, I will always revisit the trade, who won the
Yes.
trade. And I don't think we've ever wavered away from the Phils have won this trade hands down. It just comes down to the fact that Sixto Sanchez hasn't been able to throw for 2.5 years now. So until
Mhm.
Sixto's back, and the reality is we're not sure he will ever be back. Unfortunately, that one looks like a huge bust for the Marlins, but a big win for the Phils, I guess, on that one.
Yeah,
So
it's a shame. Sixto was supposedly the next Pedro Martinez, was the
yeah.
comp that he always got in the Phillies farm system, and had a lot of faith in him here. And you moved him due to necessity of needing a backstop in JT Realmuto. And
Mm.
yeah, it's unlucky. I can't blame the Marlins for making the trade. It's just a shame how it played out with Sixto. But also, we got to get into the Marlins a little bit here and what your early start to the year. I mean, you've got to be, considering what the schedule looked like. I know the Twins aren't really a winning organization right now, but the Mets are a really good team.
Mm.
And to come out of the opening stretch that you guys have had to get to this point, I'm sure you're okay with where they're at record-wise, if not very happy with what they're doing in the win-loss column.
Yeah, I think so. I think if 500 would have been absolutely fantastic, I think. And so they're slightly below that, but actually you have to recognize who you're playing, and you're playing a really good Mets team. That, it's the most expensive roster ever.
Right.
And, you just have to have that understanding. What we've seen, in my opinion anyway, is we've seen some growing pains. They've made some moves, the Marlins, clearly, in how they've, shunted Jazz out into center, and, Luis Arias getting him in and playing at second base, and, shortstop, they took a chance with Wendell. So there's been a lot of moving pieces defensively, and that's starting to settle in now, actually. I feel like they're starting to get into the groove. And I don't think the WBC falling in this spring really helped the Fish, where they were asking
Right.
so many guys to move position. Gene Segura as well, obviously moving out to third. And the WBC dropping in the middle of spring, I think, did hinder the Marlins a touch. Just the guys didn't get the reps in and the familiarity. What we're seeing now is they're starting to settle in defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's encouraging. What we're also seeing is, what we expect from Sandy Alcantara and what we're seeing from Jesus Luzardo last year is those guys have really stepped up. The top two, and it's actually quite interesting, and it's going to be interesting this series because the Phils have a very defined top two, in my opinion. Right. So do the Marlins right now, and when those two top two are going, we're looking to win some games. You're looking to take the wins in those games, and so. That's what we've seen. Sandy and Jesus Luzardo pitching really well. The bottom part of the rotation has been a little bit up and down thus far. And I think we just need to see a bit more consistency from the bottom part of the rotation. Offensively, it's a little bit slow, but again, you have to understand who you're facing as well. Like it's, there's some tough guys out there. I must say Kodai Senga for the Mets, really impressive.
He's
really,
good.
really impressive. Wasn't sure what to expect, but and I don't think the Marlins hitters knew what to expect, to be honest with you. And he's a really tricky guy, no doubt. And so, 2 starts against him. They've had, one against Scherzer. So, the offense is, as we know, it isn't the strong part for the Marlins, but it feels different to last year. They just struggled. They had plenty of runners on, and they just struggled to get them across. But last year, the struggle was getting anyone on, and thus, no one across either. So, it feels like we're ticking in the right direction. Luis Arias was as advertised with him, I must say. Really impressed with Luis Arias. He's just a straight up hitter. Just amazing hand-eye, and you just looked like, you can pretty much hit any pitch, really. So it's been really encouraging. And Jazz Chisholm Jr. starting to come alive as well. I mean, for me, a lot of this, this offense really hinges on Jazz. If he gets rolling, if he's healthy, the dude's electric, and he's really settling at center field. And now he's settled into center field. It feels like the bat is starting to kind of catch up as well, which I think that's only natural. There's going to be some nervous times for him out there, and a lot of mental energy on trying to make sure he plays center field to, at least an average level. And you get concerned that may impact the stick. But overall, I think the offense has been as expected. The rotation is coming along. The bullpen looks interesting too. It's an area the Marlins did address, and I think they have addressed it. And AJ Park, I think, looks nice in that 9th inning. So, yeah, overall 4-6 with 2 series against the Mets plus a series against the Twins that want to win some games too. I think it looks pretty encouraging. So, yeah, it's going to be a good series. Actually, I think both these clubs kind of come in thinking, they're looking to win the series. I think.
Oh, for sure, absolutely, no doubt.
All right, well, let's preview the series. But before we do that, guys, let's get into our ads of the day. At least 2 of them. There's 2 in this first segment. And the first one, let's get the graphics fired up as well. Sexy graphics here on the Ultimate Pro
go.
Baseball GM. Let's go. Even they got the QR code up as well. They got it all happening here. And you've heard me speak about this one the last couple of weeks, guys. And it is one of the coolest games I played in a long time. And as you know, if you follow me on Twitter and listen to this pod, I think I could be a GM. And it turns out that this game is anything to go by. It's not that easy. If you've had the same thought and fantasized about managing your own franchise, go and download Pro Baseball GM immediately. The game allows you to manage every aspect of a franchise, hiring the right coaches and staff, managing team finances, scouting and drafting, managing the clubhouse and all those difficult personalities and injuries, as well as going through free agency and all the ups and downs of a season. Everything is in there, guys, in this challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free, playable offline, play on the go as you want, when you want to. So Locked On listeners, you get 100% free boost to your franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM, start your dynasty today. And this is it's a 2-ad segment, would you believe? So
a two-parter.
Let's go. And even I'm going to take them both. So, that's the kind of host I am. I'm happy to do it. And this one is a new one, guys. So the guys, regular listeners, and I know you're all out there. This one is a new partner for Locked On. It's RocketMoney. Yes, sir. So first off, who is it? Who are these guys? And what are they? RocketMoney, it's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Sounds sensational. Make sure it's not down canceling down that MLB.TV subscription, that's for sure. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forget about. Chances are you're one of them. Like that Stars app just to watch one show. There you go. Or that free gaming trial you never actually used. That sounds just like my wife. RocketMoney will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you. And for any you don't want to pay for anymore, just hit cancel and RocketMoney will cancel it for you. It's that easy. RocketMoney also helps you manage all your finances in one place and automatically categorize your expenses so you can easily track your budget real time. Also get alerted if anything looks off. Over 3 million people have used RocketMoney, saving the average person up to $720 a year. Boy, oh boy, that's like...
I could use that money, huh?
There you go. I could, absolutely. And for those in the UK that are listening, that's nigh on £550 sterling. Come on. RocketMoney sounds like a winner. So stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. Just for the third time, in case you missed it.
Make sure everyone's got it.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, then, Connor, let's get our minds into this series then. It lines up nicely, I think. We're going to get a look at the strength of the rotations. But game one, Sandy Alcantara going for the Marlins. Who have we got down for the Phillies in game one?
Yeah, it's going to be Matt Strahm. So Matt Strahm will make his second start of the year. Matt Strahm most recently starting for the San Diego Padres back in 2019 prior to this season. So he came from the Red Sox as a reliever this offseason. Injuries kind of forced him into the starter role. And he didn't have a bad start, his first start of the year against the New York Yankees, but it's the New York Yankees. They ended up taking that game anyway. It's just one of those situations where you look at Matt Strahm and you say he's a guy that if he's going to be on the mound, you're going to probably have to score 3 or 4 runs that night at minimum to win those games. Because he's just, frankly, he wasn't brought here to be a starter. It's not what he does. When you're facing Sandy Alcantara and your task is to score 3 or 4 runs a game at minimum, that makes your job pretty difficult. So I don't have a great feeling about tonight's game when I look at that pitching matchup. I do like the series for the Phillies because you get Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler throwing the next 2 games. But tonight would be a tough one for them to come out when considering who's on the mound for both sides.
Yeah, no doubt. The one thing that's in the back of my mind thinking about Sandy and the Phillies, I feel like in 2022, last season, there was at least 2 games where it was vintage Sandy from 5-6 innings, and then all of a sudden the Phils actually found a way to break through against Sandy It was at least one, maybe two games. I should have looked back at the starts,
No,
but
it was multiple. I remember them. Yeah, there were two where
yeah,
Alcantara, I think, gave up two or less runs and ended up taking the loss in those games. Maybe he wasn't given the loss. It might have been bullpen, but he had a great start and the Phillies found a way to beat him.
yeah.
That actually makes me feel bad about tonight because I think how many more times can you get away with that? That's such a
Mm,
rarity.
you've
And
used
he
it
pitches
already.
so well. Exactly. We used them up last year. So we'll see if the magic holds.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's going to be, the 1 against 5 is always a bit of a tricky situation, and particularly when the 1 is Sandy and the 5 is, and actually was Strahm brought in to start for the Phils, or was he likely to be a bullpen piece?
No, to be a reliever. He was brought
Yeah,
in as another lefty arm in the bullpen. That could have been like a long relief guy, someone you could go to for 2, 3, 4 innings if you need to in crazy circumstances.
yeah.
But he was the only other pitcher on this roster with starting experience when Ranger Suarez and Andrew Painter got their injuries. So he seemed the natural guy to step in and get everything squared away there. So that's why he's been forced into this role now.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Game 2, I think, looks for me the matchup. I would say
Mhm.
Aranola against Jesus Luzardo. That to me
That'll be
looks
awesome.
wild. Jesus Luzardo has had he's just carried on from 22. It's been a lot of strikeout there with Luzardo. He's looked great thus far. And has Aranola been Aranola thus far?
I'll read you these numbers and you can tell me. He's
Okay.
0-1 with a 7.45 ERA right now
Oh,
in
that's not
9
the
of 2
Nola I was
thirds.
expected.
No, it's not. He had a rough opening day start against the Texas Rangers where he had a really, really bad fourth inning. The Rangers ended up putting up 9 on the Phillies in that inning, so that
Mm,
really inflated the ERA. And actually, in the start against the Yankees, he was pretty darn good. He looked better. Aaron Nola did to go ahead and get that squared away. So I don't know. We'll go ahead and see what he is this time out. But he's also got a situation where he didn't come to a contract extension with the Phillies this offseason, like
mm.
some people expected him to. So he's facing the prospect of free agency after this year. And that could be weighing on him a little bit as we get into the season. So he hasn't been vintage Nola, but he's shown flashes. And he's always been a guy that he'll have 4 really good starts and one where he looks like he shouldn't be pitching at the major league level. It's just kind of Aaron Nola. But when he's on, he's on. And hopefully he has one of those nights tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. Do you gut feel on Nola? Does he stay with the Phils? They find a way to extend him?
I'd be really surprised if he was back with the Phillies. They made a
Really?
concerted effort to try and get a deal done this offseason. Dave Dombrowski came out right ahead of the season, said basically, paraphrasing here, that we couldn't come to a number to agree upon. Wish
Mm,
Aaron Nola, like we like Aaron Nola, but we couldn't find anything. And he's already said he's not negotiating an extension throughout the season.
okay.
So I'd be surprised if he's back with the Phillies after this season.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, that 1-2 punch of Nola Wheeler last few years has been really effective. And
Mhm.
speaking about Zach Wheeler, he's going to be going in game 3. Looks like it'll be against Edward Cabrera for the Marlins, which, I mean, Edward Cabrera he's setting records right now, and probably not the ones we want him to. With the number of walks, it has been a lot of walks for Edward Cabrera. There's no expectation that he goes down. He's slated to start in game 3, and I expect that he will do. But what about Zach Wheeler? How's he started the year?
Wheeler's been very similar to Nola. Tough
Oh.
opening start for him in Texas. Better start the second time out. And he's a guy that is working through some stuff as far as shoulder issues that he had last year that got him shut down near the end of the year. He doesn't have them still. Like there's no injuries that have been reported with him, but short offseason for the Phillies after the World Series run, and not a lot of work for him in spring training because they're trying to keep the stress on his arm down. So I think it's going to take him a while to get fully stretched out to the Zach Wheeler we know. But he's looked good. His last start, he looked really good that he had against Cincinnati, and we'll see how everything plays out as far as his next. But he's just like Nola, shown flashes, hasn't really gotten the results he wanted to this point. And we'll see if this third start of the year is the one where he truly breaks back into the Cy Young candidate he is.
I feel like Zach Wheeler, he has a nice history against the Marlins from your
Mhm.
perspective anyway, less so from mine. But it's
Yeah.
normally a real tough ass for the Marlins, and Zach Wheeler usually brings his A game against the Marlins.
It's funny, Nola did last year as well. Nola was very good against you guys last year. I think he had definitely had one shutout, might have even flirted with his second one at points, a complete game shutout. So
Mm,
they've had success against you guys in the past. We'll see if they jump back. But again, long year last year, a lot of innings on those guys' arms.
yeah,
And we could be looking at a situation where it's a tough start to the year for both of them.
yeah. Is there one final one, and we'll break for the next ad and final ad, and also look at some players we're excited about heading into this series. But just the other, I guess, thing heading into this season for the Phils, and the word that I've heard most used is the hangover. Right? It's the kind of World Series hangover. Do you sense that there's any of that at all? I mean, it's maybe too early to say, but is there anything that you've seen that you would think that they have kind of started sluggishly off the back of that?
Yeah, I don't feel it from this team at all in that manner. I don't think that's the reasoning for this. I just think it's one of those situations where they never play the Rangers well. Like they haven't beaten the Rangers since 2014. I don't think they don't
Oh
play them
man,
that often, but yeah, they've been bad against the Rangers. The Yankees are a really good team, and you're going on the road to Yankee Stadium, always a tough place. And then you get the series with the Reds, and you see more of what this team could be. I just think it's trying to figure out how to retool this team on the fly with injuries and how the pieces fit together. And Rob Thompson has a tough job to do with that. But I don't get the feeling of hangover from them. They are showing flashes. Individual players have been playing really well. Just as a team, they haven't put together a full vintage Philadelphia Phillies type game yet. And that'll come with time. But still confident that this team will be as good as advertised.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a talented team. We haven't even spoken about Trey Turner. We've gone nearly
Right?
26 minutes and we haven't even mentioned Trey Turner. So maybe hold that thought. I think Trey Turner loves playing against the Marlins as well. So he may come up in this final segment. But it's time to let you guys know about our good friends over at So Rare. Do you remember these new ads last week? It's the new sponsor, So Rare. And it's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all of the 30 Major League Baseball teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents. Yes, even UK opponents, of course, to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you will still own the cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next level competitions and rewards. Sounds absolutely amazing. Broadly, it's a game week happening twice weekly with a 3-4 day cycle. At the end of the game weeks, the managers who rank at the top or near the top of the leaderboards, they win a variety of rewards, which can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Yes, sir. Avisel Garcia must be queued up for the Marlins, no doubt
Oh,
about
of
it.
course. And you get to meet Scott Kingery for the Philadelphia Phillies.
There we go. Get those dingeries in there as well. Prices may vary depending on the competition, for sure. So what have you got to do? You got to head to sorare.com/locked on. For those that are wondering on the spelling or asking that, it is SO as in so, and then rare as in RARE.com. So SORARE.com. So Rare to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. Wonderful. I absolutely love that one. Love that one.
That's great, right?
Right, Connor, let's look ahead. Let's kind of get the cryptic, the mystic ball going on here and looking ahead. Some key guys that you're looking out for that maybe need to perform well if the Phillies are going to take this series.
Yeah, the big two guys I'm looking at are the top two guys in the lineup. Kyle Schwarber's been really, really bad lately. We'll start with him. He has not really created the opportunities that Phillies fans thought he would, with Trey Turner batting ahead of him. A lot of strikeouts to the point where the Cincinnati Reds intentionally walked Trey Turner to put runners on first and second for Kyle Schwarber. That's not something that you see often for a guy that was the NL home run champ
Yeah.
last year. So, and it ended up with a Kyle Schwarber strikeout. So, good decision by the Reds. He's got to have a big series and break through because he is a slow starter to seasons historically. He normally hits his stride around June and when the weather gets warmer, but the Phillies could really use some of his power to be on display in this series. So I'm looking at him. And Trey Turner has been really good average wise, but no home runs yet. We saw him hit all the home runs in the World Baseball Classic. We saw him hit a bunch of spring training. So I know the fan base is restless thinking, when is Trey Turner going to hit the ball out of the yard? Small ballpark at Citizens Bank Park. He gets 3 more opportunities against the Marlins in 3 games. Let's see if he leaves the yard. I think we get the first Trey Turner home run in a Phillies uniform in this series.
Oh man, I knew it.
Yeah, he's due. He saved them all for you guys.
He's due. He absolutely is. I love that. And you're right with Schwarber. Like you said, he's an absolute monster, home run monster. And so, he does, tend to start slow. So, yeah, again, interested to see from a Marlins perspective. I would say that there's a couple of interesting wrinkles here where we started the year with Jazz Chisholm in the cleanup spot. Then he took to Twitter, had a bit of a blow up on Twitter, and next thing is he's in the leadoff spot. And so that was where my head was at. Like Jazz, I think the profile of him is very much of a leadoff type of hitter. He's got the power plus the speed, and maybe similar to the way the Braves are operating with Ronald Acuna Jr., really, where get him at the top of the order. And so I'm intrigued to see if Jazz stays at the top of the lineup here for the Marlins in this series. And I think if he does, it's interesting to see what happens with the speed. Yesterday, 2 stolen bases. So, that's the part of his game we hadn't seen at all through the season. So the question is, does Jazz continue to lead off? Luis Arias then in the 3-hole. He looks productive there. But Garrett Cooper all of a sudden is on a real hot streak. He's, I think, 3-4 home runs in.
And he kills the Phillies.
He always kills the Phillies.
I hate Garrett Cooper. That guy. He's there with the biggest lip in ever. Like his lip is jutting out like crazy every time he steps up and just kills the Phillies. So hopefully he has a down series for my sanity.
Exactly. And he's been hot. He's been hot in New York. So we'll wait to see. And it's contract year Cooper as well. So, there is something to prove there. Don't think the Marlins will be looking to extend him, but we'll see how things go. So for me, it's, does Jazz continue to lead off, and what does the stolen base production look like? Can he get on base enough? But we'll wait to see there. Garrett Cooper, can he continue his hot streak? Equally, I would love to see Mean Gene Segura really start to kind of settle in a little bit here. It's been an unlucky start, I would say, for Gene, where he's hitting the ball pretty hard, but he's hitting the ball on the ground all of the time. It's just a lot of ground ball efforts, and he's just been a little bit unlucky at times too. So, maybe Mean Gene back to back playing against the Phils on the road there, feel comfortable perhaps, and maybe a point to prove there as well on that one. So I think that could be
he gets his ring tonight. He will be the first former Philly to get his National League championship ring. So that'll be presented to him ahead of tonight's ball game. So maybe that'll give him a little bit of extra confidence going into the series.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. That's a nice touch for Mean Gene. Were you disappointed that he didn't end up staying with the Phils? I guess you ended up, getting Trey Turner in there. So, yeah,
right. If you end up with Trey Turner, it's hard to be disappointed. I love Gene Segura. I think he's a great player, great locker room guy. He's a very valuable baseball player for an organization, but the Phillies felt they wanted to upgrade at that position, and they got the best shortstop in baseball. So there just wasn't a spot for him to get paid the way he deserved to and still play on this roster. So all good feelings for Gene. Best of luck. I'm rooting for him, down for you guys. Even in this series, I want to always see Gene Segura play well. But it's hard to miss him when you see Trey Turner there at shortstop.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny because the Marlins signed him obviously, and then straight away was saying actually he's going to be playing third base, which caught me off guard at the time. I didn't believe it at the time actually, but then the way things have played out was he has ended up at third base. And what I would say is he definitely can play there, and the arm plays amazingly at third. He definitely has the arm for certain. It's
crazy
nice.
he ever played shorter second with how hard he throws the ball, and he fields that position well. I think that he'd be very good over the course of a season in that spot for you guys. So I like that for him.
Yeah, no doubt. It's actually been pretty encouraging there. Guys, we're well out of time. We're over time, but it has to be done. There was a lot to get into and unpack from over the weekends. Connor, for those that are listening to the pod, let people know as well where they can get you as well on Twitter from the Marlins fan base that are listening in, and then we'll wrap up here.
Of course, yeah. You can find the Locked On Phillies main account at LO_Phillies. You can find mine. You can see it down there if you're watching on YouTube at Connor Thomas 975. Which, if you're in the Philadelphia area, maybe you're a Marlins fan that's transplanted up here. I don't know why you'd come from Florida to Philadelphia. Normally, it's the other way around. But you can go ahead and hear me on the radio at 97.5 The Fanatic here as well.
Stunning. Guys, that has been a very fun Monday episode, a preview episode of this Marlins Phillies series. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins or Locked On Phillies your first listen of the day. For your second listen, feel free to check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. You can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. You can find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If your team every day. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Good luck to the Phillies. Good luck to Connor for this for the next couple of days. Looking forward to Sandy Alcantara going for the Marlins on Monday. Of course, I'll be back on Tuesday. Sean Barrett's in the house, the UK GOAT, as we recap on the start from Game 1 and equally look ahead to the next couple. We'll see you then, guys.